So on that note, as I welcome you all, let me also take a minute to thank our incredible partners for their fantastic support and for helping us take this vision forward with this extraordinary evening. We'd like to thank our presenting partner, Federal Bank, state partner, Invest UP, celebration partner, Diageo, and knowledge partner, EY India. Now, before we get to tonight's celebrations of leadership, it's also time for us to take a quick look or a quick reflection on what leadership really means, especially in the words of those who embody it to the best literally every day. So with that, firstly, let's take a look at the AV on the screen.
My leadership philosophy is play to win. For that, we need to think big, do less, execute flawlessly. And what we encourage everyone to do is to collaborate, be agile, and be bold with a foundation of values.
My leadership mantra is, as a CEO, have a vision and have full trust in your people. At the same time, institute some defined process for continuous improvement and business excellence. Don't be too fussy about the methodology, be pragmatic, pick whichever method applies to you and you are most comfortable with. Ultimately, people are the key and your vision guides them.
Well, one of my most favorite sayings actually is that luck is the point at which opportunity meets preparedness. So there are two pieces to this. There's opportunity and preparedness. You can't control when the opportunity comes to you, but preparedness is completely under your control.
As we always say, demonstration by example. So in Hindi we say yathaya raja tathaya praja. So all the leaders have to demonstrate, they have to act, and they have to support their colleague to uplift and then to grow them along with the organization.
The role of leadership and the CEO is to set a vision for the company and make sure that everybody believes in that vision. And you empower your team to go out and achieve that vision.
So I think leadership for me means clarity. If you're able to define a long-term goal, a long-term vision for the organization, make sure that the goals are very measurable so people know what needs to be delivered and when it needs to be delivered. At the same time, the accessibility needs to be very high. You need to be available to your people, and the decision making needs to be very, very quick. If you're able to do a few of these, I think you'll be a very good leader.
My leadership mantra is to lead with authenticity. Building genuine trust with various stakeholders such as employees, customers, investors, and other stakeholders. It's all about listening to them with empathy and having a say-do ratio of 1. Do what you say and say what you do.
Leadership is about working together with a common purpose. At Ultratech, our success comes from being one team, supporting each other, facing challenges together, and of course leveraging each other's strength to create a multiplier impact.
My success mantra has been having a clarity and focus on what you want to achieve, be a continuous learner, persevere in spite of challenges, learn from failures, course correct wherever required, trust your team, and be consistent in your decision making.
In our business, it's all about the team. And my job as the leader is to empower the team so that they can go above and beyond.
First, to summarize my leadership mantra in one line, it will be eye on the sky and feet on the ground.
The entire organization works on the principle that we have extreme trust on each other. The company is heavily delegated. Sometimes I tell my site colleagues that they have more powers than me, which is a fact that when I was at site, I think I had more powers than what I am today.
Turn actually tries to capture the essence of the times we live in. Turn stands for turbulence, uncertainty, rapid change, and therefore calling for novel strategies. And this is all arisen because of the global context of challenges that are there, climate emergency, of rapid transformation through technology, of rapid change in consumer thinking and awareness and their aspirations.
There are 4 key metrics that have helped any brand across the globe to withstand the test of time. First one being namely the customer. We are a customer-centric business.
Second is your people who deliver on that promise in that business. The third being the product, continuous innovation and reimagination of the product. And the fourth one being values. Your core values cannot be changed every year, every 2 years, or every 3 years. The core values help a business to succeed over a longer term, and the core values of Taj are defined as trust, awareness, and joy.
For me, effective leadership has always been about impact, empathy, and example. In the tech world, things are changing every day. So the first skill I would highlight is curiosity, ability to learn, ask the right questions, and to stay relevant, no matter how senior you are.
Well, I think we can have a round of applause for that as we got to hear from so many of our leaders and as we also get to warm up ourselves for this incredible evening. But that being said, the methodology for Fortune India's best CEOs has been developed in collaboration with our knowledge partner, EY India. Now, this combines both quantitative as well as qualitative assessment of the financial and the strategic performance of the CEOs leading listed companies. Now, this is where I also want to accentuate on the fact that the term best CEO serves as a metaphor for exceptional leadership and is not necessarily tied to an individual's formal designation. Now, since a leader's performance cannot be purely judged by financial metrics, the qualitative findings were presented to a jury comprising of an eclectic mix of corporate experience and investing acumen. In fact, our jury was chaired by Dr. Sanjeev Goenka, Chairman RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, and the panelists also comprised of Zia Modi, Managing Partner, AZB & Partners, Prashant Jain, Founder, 3P Investment Managers, KVS Manian, CEO, Federal Bank, Devina Mehra, Founder, Chairperson, and Managing Director, First Global, and Dinesh Kanabar, Founder and CEO, Dhruva Advisors. So that being said, I've got a feeling that you're all also curious to take a look at our jury in action. So let's take a look at the AV on the screen.
It's about multiple factors, it's about performance, it's about returns, it's about making an impact, it's about making a difference. And we have many, many, many achievers in Indian corporates. So it's a privilege to be part of this jury, to chair it, and to have the opportunity to select amongst all the great achievers.
I learned about some new names actually that I hadn't known about before. And when one looked them up more than just the numbers, one found that they had a career of excellence and ambition and commitment.
The role of a CEO is an extremely demanding one and a very critical one. It's very difficult to do justice to the definition of a good CEO in a short while.
I think there were several aspects we looked at. It was a very interesting jury because the composition of jury was fairly mixed and everybody brought their own perspectives to the choice.
One of the really important things that any company management does is capital allocation. So I put a lot of emphasis on the return on capital employed, on the ROC.
When you're looking at the candidates who are here and who have navigated the company in the past year, and really what does it augur for the future? We're looking at leaders who are nimble-footed, leaders who can adapt to change. And one was wanting to see that, yes, what is the past performance, which of course is the criteria for selecting somebody, but how does that translate to future?
Well, I must let you all know that we do have some of our incredible jury members with us here this evening. And we're also delighted to let you know that the Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal, will be gracing the event to honor the leaders extraordinaire. So while we get to deep dive into some of the insights flowing in from this side of the hall, I'd also like to urge our members of the audience to keep your conversations coming using the hashtag India's Best CEOs 2025. So you could do that across the social media platform, but don't forget to use the hashtag India's Best CEOs 2025. With that, it's now time to set the tone for the evening, and I'd now like to invite the man who brings deep insight into India's corporate landscape, a veteran financial journalist with a cinephile's soul. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage Saurav Majumdar, Editor-in-Chief, Fortune India.
Good evening. On behalf of Fortune India and the RP Sanjeev Goenka Group, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you this Monday evening. It's a busy day, and thank you very much for sparing the time to come and be with us for these celebrations. We meet here at a time when the global business ecosystem is undergoing rapid change, whether it is the shifting geopolitics, the sudden shocks to the supply chain, or changing market preferences. Today's economic environment and business environment has turned extremely demanding, volatile, and uncertain, requiring swift actions on the part of business leaders. Nobody knows these better than the business leaders here in this room. Quick course corrections are now par for the course as it becomes increasingly challenging to come up with long-term strategies. In fact, ITC Chairman Sanjeev Puri, who you just heard and you will hear during the course of this evening, sums it up by calling it TURN, T-U-R-N. TURN isn't just a turn of phrase or a smart acronym. It stands for turbulence, uncertainty, rapid change, leading to novel strategies. That's what TURN stands for. And that is what every CEO across sectors leading to, what they are grappling with, every business leader needs to grapple with on a regular and daily basis. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, we celebrate the achievements of those iconic business leaders who have shown that they can face any challenge, grapple with sudden shocks, and ensure that their companies win in the marketplace and generate shareholder value. Shareholder value is also something we will discuss during the course of this evening. In fact, we will also discuss what is a CEO multiple. How do you value a CEO? These are the leaders who we at Fortune India call India's best CEOs. Leaders whose success stories have defined India's business landscape and inspired several others. Fortune India's best CEOs were selected after a rigorous process which started with sifting through data, sitting with our knowledge partner, EY India, and then presenting a short list for our eminent jury to finally pick the winners from. This, therefore, is a process which banks not just on quantitative factors, but also on qualitative ones, where the jury picks leaders who demonstrate ideal leadership qualities. This year, as you've heard, we had a stellar jury led by Dr. Sanjeev Goenka, with Zia Modi, Prashant Jain, Dinesh Kanabar, KVS Manian, and Devina Mehra as members. The final winners you will meet this evening demonstrate true leadership and corporate excellence, qualities which are firing India Inc.'s growth engines. Speaking of growth, we are delighted that we will be joined by Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, later this evening. Shri Goyal's infectious energy and relentless drive are instrumental in powering India's commerce and industry ecosystem, and we are deeply grateful to him for sparing time from his very busy schedule to be with us this evening. During the course of the evening, we will also listen to several other luminaries, from leading corporate leaders to market mavens, who will share with us their thoughts and success recipes. I truly hope you enjoy this evening, because it's one which will give us a lot of food for thought and takeaways. And once again, I thank you very much for being with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Majumdar, for setting the context for the evening with your insightful thoughts. Well, on that note, let me also turn your focus to our very first session for the evening, which is a very exciting fireside chat on the issue that's being hotly debated in the boardrooms of India Inc. This is the advent of the artificial intelligence. Now, the one industry which is at the forefront of this transformational change is the Indian IT services industry. Now, recently I did hear someone say that the only gen that is taking the world forward is Gen Z and GenAI. But on a lighter note, that being said, one thing that we do know that given the potential of GenAI that is yet to be fully realized, how are India's IT majors looking to deliver value and also premiumize their service offerings? That's a big question. Well, let's get the leaders on board to share their insights on the topic, future of IT companies in Gen AI age. Let me please invite our esteemed stalwarts to please come on stage as we get the discussion started. First up, let me please invite Mr. C. Vijay Kumar, CEO and Managing Director, HCL Technologies. And let's welcome him with a huge round of applause, everyone. Well, up next, let me please invite on stage Mr. Sandeep Kalra, CEO, Persistent Systems. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now, to spearhead this incredible chat, let me please invite Rukmini Rao, Consulting Editor, Fortune India. And with that, let the session begin. I'll hand over the proceedings to Rukmini. Over to you.
Thanks, Kavya. CVK, I'll begin with you. You recently started calling out your advanced AI revenues. Speaking of that, how much has the industry actually realized the potential of GenAI, and what do you see in the future GenAI, agentic AI deliver? And I'll come to you after that, Sandeep.
Yeah, I think the leaders across the IT industry are very well appreciative of the potential of AI to not only transform their services, but also the clients and their businesses. In any tech cycle, generally the technology catches the consumer fancy at certain point in time. And the enterprise adoption takes 3 to 5 years because there's a lot of complexity within an enterprise. So you will start seeing this rapidly speeding up from here on. We're almost in the 3rd year. So I think it'll really accelerate.
Sandeep, where do you see in the curve that we are in currently in terms of the potential of GenAI and what it can deliver to enterprises? What do you see in the future that GenAI or agents can be delivering to enterprises?
So first, I'll agree with CVK. We are in an initial stages of the innings. People understand the potential. People understand the potential right from tech companies, how they deliver products, how the products can be used in an enterprise. There are initial use cases, and the foundation for the overall, the data preparedness for the enterprise is being laid right now. And over a period of time, whether you are a tech company, healthcare company, financial services company, you'll embed AI where it needs to, not necessarily GenAI only, but AI. And the potential for us as an industry, whether you are an enterprise or a tech services company, it is like for the next 5 to 7 years, you will see much more being adopted.
Got it. But when we're talking about GenAI or agentic, perhaps for the non-boardroom guys, it's all about somebody is going to be eating your job, right? Given that, what are the hot sectors that both of you see where we can where GenAI or agents actually have the potential to very effectively replace humans? And do you see that happen in near future?
Yeah, we see it across sectors. There's a lot of effort to use generative AI to amplify or enhance what the human capabilities are, and also efforts to replace human efforts. However, instead of sectors, I think there are many functions like customer support, marketing, content creation, software development, data decision-making systems. It's these functions where we see this adoption rapidly increasing, and that cuts across sectors.
So just to add to that, see, the way we are looking at it is, it's not AI replacing humans. It's AI enabling humans to do much more, much faster, also spawning off newer markets. So if you look at an enterprise in the form of an industry vertical, let's say you are in drug development and pharma, you can do it much faster, much better today. If you're in financial services, you can do things like anti-money laundering related analysis. You can do
much more in terms of investment analysis if you are a private equity company. So the use cases are humongous, and it's also spawning of newer markets.
So, CVK, given that, picking up from what both of you said, the tools that can be used effectively is when the human is using it, right? In that curve for your clients, perhaps, when you're trying to deliver agents and, put them into use in their own enterprises, how much is the awareness on the client side where they can actually effectively use it, or in the curve, where does it stand,
I think awareness is high, but there is also a lot of ambiguity, right? Because there is so much of noise from different technology providers, different solutions. Sometimes it's people mistake what can be done very effectively through traditional AI, and they believe that needs to be done through GenAI. So there's a lot of confusion. I think it's kind of settling down, and the true value where one need to really leverage generative AI. There are some very good use cases which are getting into deployment, and we will see the scale.
Sandeep, are use cases enough to convince clients to sort of adopt GenAI?
See, the best way to do it is many companies like us or HCL and similarly others, we have been working with our customers for long. So it's not about looking at a use case and convincing the customer. It's about looking at a customer's business and their customer. And in that context, seeing where we can effectively use this. And we don't need to necessarily since generative AI is there, not everything needs to be done by generative AI, as CVK said. We need to go business by business, deep understanding of that business, and see where it can have meaningful use case in today's this thing.
One thing that I want to understand from both of you is both of you have announced in the recent past collaboration with hyperscalers, chip companies and other, tech companies, if I can call them. How do these actually help you in terms of your own AI journey, in the ambition that both of you have when it comes to the IAS space?
Yeah. So I think we need to have an end-to-end capability to really deliver a complete business solution to a client. And this can start from silicon to cognitive infrastructure to data, the models, applications, and then the business process. So at the different parts of the stack, we see a need to partner with some of the technology providers. And we strongly believe that all of this contributes to building the intelligence layer, and that's what all the technology OEMs are focused on, building the intelligence layer or the compute that is needed for it. And our role as a service provider is really to make this intelligent layer relevant for an enterprise and be able to scale within an enterprise. Because we understand the enterprise context, because we've been running a lot of application development, a lot of work for various Fortune 500, Fortune Global 2000 companies. So that context awareness and an ability to apply this in a client's context is where we really excel.
Sandeep, where do you see drawing the synergies with these collaborations?
Yeah, so CVK said it right. See, the thing is this. This is a fairly large landscape in terms of technologies that are available to us. And there are multiple different technologies that can solve the same problem. We have to be the guardian from the customer side, figure out what is available, what is the best technology at the best price point at this point in time or any point in time to solve those. Second, we will always, so we are building certain platforms, for example, at Persistent. We can do end-to-end, or we can integrate with certain hyperscalers or others. So it's about having a bouquet of capabilities, and we don't necessarily need to invest in the entire 9 yards. So for example, NVIDIA is there. There are hyperscalers who are bringing that to market. If they can bring it faster, better, cheaper than us or somebody else, we have to be able to leverage those. And again, at the end of the day, the center point has to be the customer, the use case, the business.
Also, what we're seeing with most of the IT companies is, there's a big shuffle happening with their entire talent pyramid and, recalibration that we are happening. But if you have to look into the future, with both of you, heading companies where same is undergoing, you've announced, you're going to be rewarding guys with extreme elite talent sets a lot more. Given this scenario, CVK and Sandeep, in the next decade or so, what would be, if an IT engineer today wants to be relevant, how does he stay relevant in the next decade?
So two parts to it. One is the existing manpower that we have. So in this entire journey, the interesting part is it gives us all a new pivot to reinvent ourselves, to understand the implication of GenAI in our own sense. And this is across the stack. So that is one part for the existing people. And we are doing a lot of investment. The biggest investment we are doing at Persistent, and I'm sure the same is there in technology services, various firms, is about the training, learning development, bringing the people up to speed on the latest. The second part is the newer talent that we are looking for. It is not necessarily about the freshers only. We are also looking to bring in talent which is different than us. So if we look at the tech services companies of the future, let's say there's a trend evolving where we will not just provide services, we'll also bring IP, platforms, partnerships. So we need to have people who have been there, done it in a different context. So you will see the mix changing, both from training people to learn these and bringing people from other industries into our companies, whether it is domain or technology.
CVK, your thoughts?
I mean, I would largely agree to whatever Sandeep said. Just want to emphasize that need to invest in IP is of paramount relevance, because there are so many different opportunities where we can make the AI adoption much more easier for an industry use case or a vertical. And in terms of the mix itself, I see this whole thing, number of layers could come down, and there'll be more self-managed teams, and software engineers, apart from coding and other things, they will also have to manage agents. So I think it's a kind of a combined operating model is what we see it evolving.
Given that both of you are at the implementation layer, what are 2 or 3 top things that CEOs present here need to be aware of in the Gen AI era to run better enterprises?
So keeping the time in mind, I'll say a thing and then I'll hand over to CVK. So I don't think it is about technology. It is about understanding your own business, and in that context, understanding what technology can do for you. So we should not start technology up, we should start business down. What is the outcome that we want, and where technology can help that faster, better, cheaper, and make us more smarter.
Yeah, I think everyone should need to think of their business in an AI native mindset and be mentally open to completely reimagine your operating model and the business processes underlying. And of course, have a disproportionate focus on making your people AI ready. I think these are some of the top things.
At this point, I'm trying to get one of you to disagree with the other, but it seems a little difficult. So perhaps, CVK, any question that you want to ask Sandeep, and Sandeep, any question that you want to ask CVK?
Both of us come from we know each other for the last 25 years. Go ahead.
So maybe Sandeep, how do you manage to hit sixes every time?
Okay, so he's talking about how do you manage growth every time, quarter after quarter. That's what he's asking, correct? So it's all about, so I have been at Persistent now about 6.5 years. Anand is here. He built a strong foundation. We have accelerated the capability build. It's at any point in time, making sure you understand where the market is going in terms of the technological advances and the business domains. Marrying those ahead of the competition and executing impeccably, doing the right partnerships in the market. Customer at the center, you execute, and the team at the end of the day is the biggest thing. So that's CVK the best part.
Sandeep, your question to CVK now.
So CVK, you have started calling the revenues in AI. How do you see these scaling? Because in our parlance, 2, 3, 4 years from now, everything will be impacted by AI. So how do you take the journey from here till there?
I didn't realize that you're going to become an investment analyst now. I think everything is going to be AI-led, and that's not what we're calling as AI, because AI used in service transformation is business as usual. But there are IPs that we are building, the revenue on that, and there are a lot of specialized services like physical AI, AI factory, robotics, work on silicon. So these are all what we classify as advanced AI, and we've seen a good rhythm, so we decided to call that out.
One final question. 5 years from now, how will the Indian IT services companies look like?
Continue to evolve and be the pride for our country, I'm pretty sure.
I think the tech services sector in India will evolve. It will be thriving despite all the hype about AI will take the jobs away and so on. I think Indian tech sector will reinvent with IP and services We'll have the revenue per employee much different, profit per employee much different than what you see today, and a lot of us are working in that direction.
That was absolutely fascinating, and thank you so much for your time, and we hope we have a good evening. Thank you.
Well, that indeed turned out to be a zinger of a chat. And thank you very much, Rukmini, for spearheading it for us. Well, on that incredible note, let's march ahead because, ladies and gentlemen, if AI is changing the industry script, our very own Bollywood is taking the road less traveled by changing the status quo with offbeat plots and star cast. Now, one such disruptor is Dinesh Vijan, founder of the Maddox Films. He's not just Bollywood's most popular filmmaker, but he's also disrupted the content playbook with movies such as 3, Tama, Bhedia, or Munjia. In this interesting chat, our very interesting film buff, also our editor-in-chief, Saurav Majumdar, and Dinesh are going to talk about not just disrupting Bollywood, but also about the Indian content resonating with global audiences, as well as AI in content creation. So yes, that's about to be a very interesting chat, or if I may put it this way, a very entertaining chat that's awaiting us. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let me please invite on stage Mr. Dinesh Vijan, and if I may also please invite Saurav Majumdar to spearhead this incredible chat. Can we also have an entertaining round of applause, everyone? Let's welcome Mr. Dinesh Vijan and Saurav Majumdar on the stage, please.
Good evening. Good evening, Dinesh, and welcome to the Fortune India's Best CEOs event. We wanted to give it a little bit of a twist, a dramatic twist, if you may add, by having you with us, talking about a very interesting kind of phase which Indian entertainment is going through. And a lot of it is also, in Bollywood at least, thanks to Maddox Films, which you are the founder of. I have watched almost all of your movies of various genres. But one thing I must ask you is, you have been an expert at, and you've had a fantastic run of late, in any case, at the box office as well. Now, and when others, the bigger ones, are also struggling, which is why we call you the disruptor. And I'm sure you've been called this otherwise also by others. But the fact of the matter is, I want to know from you, what is the secret sauce which, if any, which Maddox has in terms of choosing selecting the scripts which you do, because many of them are of varying types. And I'll come to the horror universe, of course, later, horror comedy. But I want to know, what is Maddox's secret sauce to start with?
I think the most dangerous thing is to have a secret sauce. Because if you have a formula, every film that has failed in the last decade is a formula film. I think, COVID changed a lot of things. In the last 10 years, we've become a country of moviegoers who want to look more internally. I don't think we are as aspirational towards the West. That was the biggest change where, like a Badlapur and a Hindi medium did well, where we realized we have such a rich heritage, but no one was really looking there. So we started looking there. And, that's where we found a Chhava. We found all the legends of the horror comedy universe are true legends, in the sense, at least, true on history, maybe not, hopefully not true in reality. So when we started looking, I realized there's so much our culture has to offer, and I was fortunate that my dad made me travel all across India. So India is very diverse. So if you just start looking in the right place, that's a start. I think it's very important to be unique and audacious in what you're trying to do. So if the #1 Hindi film of all time is 3, 2, clearly women are leading the way.
Absolutely.
And the #2 film of all time is Chhava, which is a historic about Shivaji's son. So I think when you find a story which is yours but you didn't know, that works at times. We're making Maha-Avatar, which is Bhagwan Parshuram's story, which when I heard, and the way it's like a whole metaverse in itself. So I think we are as Indian as it gets, if that's any secret sauce.
No, but that's absolutely fascinating, the way you said you choose your stories, because it's deep-rooted Indian in culture in that way, in thought. But at the same time, there have been others which have not worked, you know. Of course, movies and the box office, a lot of it is also luck. That is true. But does it have something to do with changing audience tastes these days? Because today we are bombarded with international content as well on streaming and other places. So I think, do you think that much of these new things which people are like a Hindi medium, an Angrezi medium, do you think these are the stories which people now want to be told? And that's the right time?
I think audiences want to be surprised. You don't want predictable stories. You want, I think it's also a very, it requires a lot of effort to go to a cinema and watch a film. I think it's the only surviving medium which you're not ordering on the phone. So you got to really make it worth it. Now you can make it worth it by being really unique, audacious, a spectacle. But I think good or very good won't do. You need to be at international standard. You need to be a really, really good film, which sounds simple but has not happened as often. And I think our competition more than from each other is actually from the phone and short form content. True. And I think the way scrolling is going these days, it's the biggest threat. So I feel people might just forget to watch films in 10 years. So I think we need to, as filmmakers, not think of it as just filmmakers, but content makers and be screen agnostic. But that's a much larger conversation. But the future belongs in being able to use whatever IP you've created and go across screens. The future belongs to day and date. The customer will choose if he wants to watch it on the phone, at home on his TV, or actually drive and go to a cinema. That option has to be given to them, which technology will give us in the next couple of years, maybe even months.
You know, talking of scrolling, I was speaking to Jyoti Deshpande of Geo Studios some time back, and she mentioned a lot of the subjects she chooses, or the Geo Studios people choose, is also based on what is social media chatter, what is popular, you know, in terms of what are people talking about, what makes them, you know, what makes them tick, what are they excited about. Do you think that's also something which Maddock works on?
No, not really. That's good, but I feel it's better to make content that becomes social media chatter rather than take from social media chatter. So, you know, when a 3-2 works and goes to that level, every joke, every nuance people talk about, I think that's something that will take it to the next level. Of course, they can be, you're a little bit inspired by, you know, if there's a popular trend, a popular line, you might use it. And today it's possible because the, you know, world's connected to get those IPs too. Like we used this common reel, Damyangar, in Dhama, and it worked quite well because it's like the Bhediya does that, right? So, little bit, but I think the originality and the audaciousness of the plot, if completely is intertwined in our culture, that's when it really lands.
Yeah, that's true. And having said that, I mean, what is the kind of, you know, movie scripts which you think will work in the coming days now? How are you choosing scripts really?
You know, I think when I hear a film, it's as simple, because that's my job in the company, that the next morning I cannot not make that film. That's the best way to choose a film. But I think in the future, I think familiarity helps. So a good, like the horror comedy universe, if we don't oversupply it and it sticks to one a year, that's relevant. I think
So you will continue with horror comic universe?
Yes, we have about 7 coming over the next 5 years.
Oh, wow.
And they're all interconnected, and and I think
Thama clearly has a sequel coming up.
More than so you don't do the sequel should come 5 years later, but Thama should make an appearance in maybe 3-3.
Okay.
You know, so if you don't oversupply it, it's relevant.
So, you know, while we are running out of time, I wanted to ask you about the growing trend of AI. And we can't not talk about it even in the entertainment space. Movies are now being made entirely on AI. You know, AI is all over the entire entertainment space. How do you look at AI at Maddock?
I think it's the biggest, like not me, I think AI is going to be the biggest disruptor for entertainment, because every storyteller across the world will be able to create. I've been, you know, I've looked at a lot of patented technology right now, and how with a prompt photoreal images are created, photoreal moving images are created. That, according to me, in the next 18 to 24 months is going to be available. And imagine, we are only 2% penetration of films in theaters. Imagine every storyteller who doesn't know how to get there will be able to tell a story. So I think time's up, but AI is going to, like everyone said, the support functions are already affected by it, but I think the film business is one business where creation will get affected. So how organic you are with your story to come up with a story that can beat what ChatGPT tells you a story should be, will be the relevant story.
And ultimately, it's also about emotion, right? I mean, movies generate emotion, so I don't think AI can substitute that. I would like to know.
Fortunately, everything unique and audacious is working for us. And since AI is self-learning and it's based on past data, if we keep thinking of what has not come, we'll be okay. But I think it's a marriage that has to happen. It makes, marketing, data analytics so easy for us. And I think the biggest change will come in affordable visual effects, which has already happened. And that will really take quality to the next level. As in the last session, it was said that the quality and that we will be able to achieve and the penetration that we'll get for films will be much larger. So there will be many more jobs, but different jobs. And if you're in a support function in the film business, that will be an issue.
And so to wind up, what next for Maddock, Dinesh? It's the Ikkis, of course, but what else? How do you see Maddock 2-3 years from now?
I would say the best film we've ever made is coming this December. It's based on Second Lieutenant Arun Khetrapal's life. He was a 21-year-old boy who probably in the 71 war did something that no one's done or no one thought he was capable of doing. So it's almost like wo 21 ka tha, wo 21 ka rahega. And Dharamji is playing his father. So in a way, in the first half, you would say that a boy goes and blows up the enemy, and the second half, the father goes and forgives them. So it's quite poignant and, relevant in today's times, what's going on in the world. And emotionally, it's a very strong film. It's Sriram Raghavan who made Badlapur and Andhadhun, a very talented filmmaker. And I think it's his and our best film. So hopefully that resonates.
Look forward to that, Dinesh, and thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much for
Look forward to many more from Maddock.
Thank you.
Saurav and Dinesh, if I could request you to come together, we'll just have a quick photo op. If we could just request you all to come together. Can we have a blockbuster round of applause as well? Let's keep that coming, ladies and gentlemen. And what an incredible thought around the art of storytelling. With that, let's march ahead really quick. Because as we all know that Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji's idea about the Viksit Bharat goal of 2047 has a Team India approach at its core, with states playing critical, collaborative as well as central roles. Now with a target to achieve $1 trillion economy goal by 2029, UP is one of the several states leading that charge. So our next fireside chat, which is very aptly titled, UP's Growing Prowess, puts in the perspective the opportunities that the state has to offer to the business and the corporate community. Now, on that note, we are absolutely delighted to have the august presence of our very esteemed speaker. We have with us Shri Alok Kumar, Additional Chief Secretary, Infrastructure and Industrial Development Department, MSME and Export Promotion and NRI Affairs, Government of Uttar Pradesh. And to spearhead the session, we have with us Ashutosh Kumar, Deputy Editor and Delhi Bureau Chief, Fortune India. So let's put our hands together because we're talking about UP's growing prowess. Let's have a powerful round of applause. Please help me welcome Shri Alok Kumar and Mr. Ashutosh Kumar.
So thanks a lot, sir, for being with us and sharing your insights into what you are doing actually to propel UP on the investment map of the country. Now, the one thing that I would like to understand from you, sir, is that UP has been growing at an impressive rate in the last 5-7 years. What has actually gone behind and what has led to this kind of growth that has been witnessed in the state?
So I think, first of all, thank you for inviting me. Second of all, I was wondering what a government representative is doing in this program, which is for the business, by the business, and of the business.
Right.
But I thought that it would be a good idea to, in some senses, connect with some of the business leaders, because UP is a growth story which that story needs to be told, and that we should try and sell it to a lot of business people around here. So, to answer your question, there are 4 pillars that we really see which is powering UP's growth at this point in time. First pillar is safety, which means the investors should feel safe. Second pillar is infrastructure. So look at your expressways, look at your airports, look at your railway network, look at your logistics. How do you do that? Third issue is with respect to governance. How do you treat your investors? How you measure up in the ease of doing business, or the logistic access, ease of access of logistics. And final pillar is the policy environment. What is the attractiveness that you offer as a destination for potential investors? Right. On all these 4 counts, we have done fairly well, and I will just quote a couple of statistics so that people can relate. So in 2015, UP was registering 500 new factories a year. In 2023-24, the annual survey of industries, we say we have done about 3,100 factories in 1 year. And this year, the current year that we are looking at, we will be looking at 6,000 factories this year.
Wow.
So you can see that the growth is not really linear, but it is almost tending towards exponential. So we have doubled our GDP over the last 7 years. We have doubled our per capita income. We have more than doubled our exports. So we see a lot of growth momentum going into it. And the good part is that it is not going to stop, but it is going to increase.
Right, right. See, on that note, what I'd also like to understand is, while, there was a time when UP was all about tourism. Now it's infrastructure. But then there are also emerging sectors of the economy, the new economy, tech-based, GCCs. UP is powering GCCs in a very, very strong way. There is AI. So, what are the policy initiatives and opportunities in these segments, and how are you actually trying to capitalize it?
So first of all, there is a popular perception about UP that it's an agrarian state.
Right.
Now, let me tell you, I was very surprised when I took this charge. UP has 96 lakh MSMEs. The next highest state is half that number. So which means if you look at a population of 24 crores, we have 1 unit operating in every 5 families. So that is the level of, and this is not today's development. We have brass in Moradabad, 200 years. We have carpet in Bhadohi. We have leather in Agra and Kanpur. So it's not that we have done something, but there is a strong base. The second part that we are saying is that, as I said, on the manufacturing side, there is a lot of momentum that is coming in with new age industries coming in. But on the services side, that is an area that we need a lot of improvement, and that is how we have come up with the new GCC policy, because I see that that will be a good growth area. NCR, Noida, Greater Noida had always been an area where the tech industry was based, but we need to deepen it further, and that is what our push is in the coming few years.
If you would kind of elaborate on how would you like to deepen it further?
So I think as of now, if you look at our GCC policy, which has been recently announced, and if you benchmark it among the states, you would see that it is one of the best policies to have. Secondly is the issue of infrastructure. How do you create A-grade office infrastructure? And so there are 2 cities that one would say we are really marketing. One is the larger ecosystem. Noida is now being extended to Greater Noida and also extended further to what we call as the Yamuna Authority, where this new airport is coming up. So that expanded area is something which already has an ecosystem around it, and that can really deepen the presence of these kind of setup. Secondly, Lucknow. It's a city which has been quite underrated as far as I can see it. And that is another city that we are positing that could potentially see. And of late, we have seen a host of companies. IBM has come to Lucknow. HDFC has opened its a huge center in Lucknow. Yeah. Genpact is coming and set up in, Deloitte has set up base in Lucknow. So what we are seeing now is that is also taking off. So for these two cities, we really see as a potential area. And also another thing that I would like to say is Noida has a large electronic setup. So we can look at GCCs combining with that also.
Sir, one last question really. As you know, the entire gamut of, top companies is present here. What will be your one message or whatever message that you want to send to people across the corporate spectrum as to how to come forward and invest in UP? What will be your message, sir?
So one simple message, it's a state of continental dimensions, 240 million people, a very large market, a very young demography, and I would only see that people who miss out will be, UP will not be the loser.
Right, on that note, thanks a lot, Mr. Kumar, for sharing your perspective on investment in UP. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shri Alok Kumar, for joining us this evening. And thank you very much, Ashutosh, for spearheading that important and a powerful discussion for us all. With that, ladies and gentlemen, let me also inform you all that the Fortune India's Best CEOs Awards and our presenting partner is Federal Bank, which is why it's only befitting that I now please invite on stage Mr. MVS Murthy, the Chief Marketing Officer of Federal Bank, to also share a congratulatory note to our leaders and our award winners this evening. So if I could please invite on stage Mr. MVS Murthy to also share his august thoughts with all of us this evening. Let's put our hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mr. MVS Murthy.
Good evening, everybody. This is strictly a commercial break. The advantage of being the sponsoring partner of the Fortune CEO Awards. It's my immense pleasure to welcome all of you for this awards. It's a pride moment for us at Federal Bank. Many of you may not know of us, but we are a 95-year-old institution. We are the 6th largest private sector bank in the country. We have a 42% women employee strength, less than 2% attrition, which is extremely important when you're in the service business. And super proud to tell you that we are perhaps the 60 companies in India which have a net profit of over 4,000 crores. So that's our introduction. And the role that I run as CMO of Federal Bank, we build brands for purpose. But when I look at all of you leaders, I think leadership is about care. Care is C for capability building, which is why we have all of us harnessing the 35,000 kilometers of Bharatmala, the 7,500 kilometers of the Sagarmala project, the Udan project, to create ecosystems of success for the country. Agility, because of which the economy is going to be powering into the 3rd largest economy of the world, which is what you bring to the table. Resilience, which helps us overcome moments of COVID, as well as the beamers of tariff which keep coming in. And E is for bringing in efficiencies. That's what we go out and do. As a satellite, it's lovely to bask in your glory and learn from you. And thank you very much for staying awake, because when you are awake, a nation of 1 billion dreams goes and achieves what they want to go out and do. We are at the cusp of a very important moment, which is being a 40 trillion economy by 2047. And thank you for powering the Viksit Bharat dream. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Murthy, for those wealthy insights and that wonderful thought that you've shared with us. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, taking that dynamism forward, let's now march ahead to our next fireside chat, and we've aptly called it the CEO multiple. Now, in street parlance, we often talk about the valuation multiples. We're talking about earnings, revenue, or share price. But what about the multiplier that truly drives those numbers? The CEO. So our next discussion explores the impact of the unseen hand behind the numbers. I'd like to please invite our incredible speakers to please come on stage. First up, may I please invite Devina Mehra, founder, chairperson, and managing director of First Global, to please come on stage. Can we have a 6 yards of powerful round of applause there to also welcome Devina Mehra on the dais. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Well, up next, let me please invite on stage the founder and chief investment officer, 3P Investment Managers. We have with us Mr. Prashant Jain. Ladies and gentlemen. And to weave the conversation together, let me please invite on stage Mr. V. Keshav Dev, Executive Editor, Fortune India. With that, Keshav, over to you.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have two investing stalwarts with us who will help us explore the question, how do you arrive at a CEO multiple? Prashant, you're a fund manager, and you have, over the years, you have met several CEOs, enough to write a book, I am assuming. But can you tell us what are those leadership qualities or traits which don't get adequately captured in the numbers?
I think the answer to that, to my mind, foremost is whether the company's competitive advantages are increasing or decreasing. I mean, it's possible to deliver near-term earnings while compromising on longer-term sustainability and vice versa. So I think analysts and numbers do not do justice to these two.
Anything specific to the leadership? When you say market competition,
Yes.
it's a business variable. But when it comes to CEO, how do you really capture that?
So analysts could fail in assessing if CEO is taking steps to enhance the longer-term competitive advantages. It could adversely impact earnings. And markets and analysts often fail to appreciate that, and vice versa.
So is there a honeymoon period that you have where you trust the CEO for a quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, and then kind of,
No, it could
re-rate
go on,
the multiple or
it could
derate
go
the
on
multiple?
even for a few years, but eventually it will begin to show up in the numbers either way.
Devina, you have been very articulate and you keep saying that, ROC is what you see as, one metric that clearly shows out where a CEO stands. But do investors tend to underestimate the leadership behind it? Because ROC, I would say that it's return on CEO first and then the return on capital employed later.
It is actually the return on the business first. So if you look at, one of the Warren Buffett quotes I agree with is that when a good management takes over a bad business, it is the reputation of the business that is likely to continue. So if the business is inherently poor, unless you can change it, for whether it is poor in terms of returns or in terms of prospects, or it could be better like ITC we spoke about. So over a period of time, it has become a different company. CRISIL used to be 100% ratings, and now I see it is the revenue is 28% from ratings, so which is again a process that started a couple of decades ago. Internationally, Pepsi transformed itself from a sugary drink to a much broader business. But overall, in terms of what a CEO can do is to some extent constrained by the business. And one quality of the CEO, which is probably not captured, at least in short-term numbers, is the long-term perspective. And I would say, for want of a better word, the integrity part. So like if I talk of financial services, as a banker or even an asset manager, you can take the short-term perspective and say that I want to maximize fees by recommending products which may not be great for the clients or the investors, and it will show up poorly in your numbers, but that, to my mind, may be the right thing to do. Or if you look at internationally, if you see most mergers and acquisitions give you a short-term share price, but by a vast majority, most of them are not value accretive in the long term. So that's definitely a CEO decision most of the time.
Okay. Prashant, in India, a lot of listed businesses are promoter-owned, and the CEO tends to be the promoter. So is that over the years, have you seen a distinct shift in the way a promoter CEO kind of runs the business versus a professional CEO? And has that changed over the years from what it was maybe in the early 2000s and now?
To my mind, an evolved promoter CEO is the best CEO to have. I mean, an evolved CEO, an owner CEO is someone who understands his capabilities and weaknesses the best, and he will bring in professionals to complement that. But I don't think it would be right to generalize. There are exceptionally managed, professionally managed companies, HDFC, L&T, even ITC, I would say, would figure in that. And on the other hand, there are companies which have done exceptionally well, who are promoter driven, and there are companies which have not done so well. I think there is a third breed of companies which is now coming around, and which is what we need to evaluate carefully. There are a large number of companies that are backed or predominantly owned by PEs, private equity. And the founders or the owners have minuscule stakes. So what happens to these companies when the PEs sell out completely and there's virtually no skin in the game? Will they shape up as some of the very well-run, professionally managed companies, or will they flounder? I think that would be an interesting outcome for someone like me to watch.
I would just like to add something to that, that 25 years ago when I started covering the US and other European companies, what stood out was that they were almost all professionally run. Whereas now, if you look at the large market cap companies, a lot of them are founder run. So again, the market cap there also has moved very much to founder run companies. So it's not a one-way street.
Prashant, you mentioned about this new age companies, but the market, the street seems to be fascinated by new age companies, the founders, the way they speak and when they articulate. So today you're seeing the kind of multiples that an food delivery company has is much way too high to compare to a high ROC paints company. Yet it seems that the market is more enamored by the young startup. So what is this obsession by the street that it tends to, I would say, focus more on the personality than the predictability of earnings?
See, one, I don't think the PE multiple is a function of ROC alone. A decent ROC is certainly necessary for a sustainability of a business and to be richly valued. But I think the market, the PE multiple is more a function of the longer term sustainable growth, which comes from the TAM, the total addressable market, your comparative position, the business cycle you are in, the stage of growth. There are so many things. And I think the customer is clearly moving to the way we are engaging with businesses, the way services are being delivered. So I think first movers in some of these areas will definitely build up very good, very sustainable businesses. So I would say in some cases, these startups are rightly valued, and in many cases, I feel they are excessively valued. But this is not new. I mean, excesses and narrative-driven investing, they've always gone hand in hand, whether it was 92, 2000, 2008, and we see excesses in these markets as well.
Devina, you have been kind of very early on looking at global investing and companies, and one name that stands out is Unilever's CEO, Paul Mann, who was brave enough to say that I will no longer give quarterly guidance. And during his decade, he delivered a 290% shareholder return. Today, do you think CEOs can be bold enough, at least in the Indian context, to say that, I will not make these quarterly predictions and, and focus on more the long-term story? Well, and will the markets like it, and will you kind of back a CEO who says that?
So many companies don't necessarily give quarterly guidance. So that is not as ingrained here. And remember, Unilever is not an American company. So also this whole aura, I mean, probably this is the wrong place to say it and it won't win me many friends. But the fact is that this whole aura of that only the CEO is responsible for the performance of the company, this is also a very American narrative. So if you look at the CEO compensation also in 50 years back, it used to be the CEO's compensation was 25 times the median worker compensation in the US. It is now in various estimates for Fortune 500 companies, it is 200 to 280 times. In Europe, it is still about half that number. I think it's about 100 times. So again, America, it's become a little crazy because it is that if you miss the earning estimates by 1 cent, the price of even a large, well-traded company can fall 30% in a day. So it's become a little nonsensical. But as I said, the entire burden of either the positive or the negative performance is not on the CEO. Obviously, that's the hand that guides, but there's also the realities of the business and of the marketplace. And of course, ideally, you do want a CEO who concentrates on the long term. I mean, that's what you're there for.
I think we are running short of time. It's moving faster than, shrinking faster than the EBITDA margins. But one last question before we wrap up. If hypothetically, if you have to step in as a CEO today, would you become a CEO of a DTH company which is navigating rapid disruption, an FMCG leader high on ROC but facing intense competition, a new age startup scaling fast but loss-making, or a public sector giant which is rich in scale but limited in flexibility? Prashant, your team. And why?
None of the above. I only know investing.
You're happy
and I
being
would
an investor.
stick to
So
that.
you're saying a CEO's job is tough. Devina?
Probably the easier ask will be in the FMCG company. I would think that even if you're facing competition, you have the flexibility and probably money to do things. The second would be the DTH.
Thank you, Devina. Thank you, Prashant, for that interesting insight. Though we would have wanted this conversation to go on, but thank you.
Thank you very much. If I'm going to request you all to please come together for a photo op. And as we continue hearing from our leaders, we're also about to set the stage for our next fireside chat, which is all about building a future-ready conglomerate. So that's the next discussion coming up for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Now, reinventing an over a century-old legacy is certainly not easy. So let's get to find out from the ITC head honcho, Mr. Sanjeev Puri, as to how he's not just reducing his dependence on ITC's traditional business, but also making the most diversified conglomerate future-ready. Now, to spearhead the session, we have with us Ajita Shashidhar, National Editor, Fortune India, who will be taking these incredible insights forward and extracting relevant insights as well. But that being said, can we have a befitting round of applause? Please help me welcome on stage Mr. Sanjeev Puri, Chairman and Managing Director, ITC.
Good evening and welcome to Fortune India's Best CEO Awards yet again. And I really hope that you've been enjoying the evening sessions thoroughly. And now it's time to discuss about building future-ready conglomerates. And who better than Mr. Sanjeev Puri of ITC who can take us through this. So Mr. Puri has made it to the best CEO list the second time. Last time, he was the best CEO in the diversified category. And this time, he's the best CEO in the FMCG category, which speaks volumes about a traditional company which has become FMCG's most respected company. So thank you, Mr. Puri. So you recently coined an acronym called TURN, which was all about navigating businesses through turbulence and uncertainty. It'll be interesting to hear from you as to how you would use this philosophy in taking forward your business in times where disruptions have become a way of life.
First of all, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And yeah, change, challenges, disturbances are the nature of business, society. That's how things change over time. But what is unique and different today is the scale, speed, and scope of things that are happening, challenges, change, etc. Because there are confluence of things that are coming together at one point of time, starting with, we all know about the issues of geopolitics, geoeconomics, the tariffs, the supply chain issues. There's this climate change that has own challenges on food security, inflation, supply chain disturbances. There is this piece on technology. Of course, digital and AI is the most talked after, but that's not just the only technology. But that itself is changing very rapidly. By the time companies are thinking of finishing their POCs on AI and getting on to, trying to test out what GenAI is, we're talking of agentic. Things are actually changing quite rapidly. And then on account of that, there are transformation in business models from an FMCG perspective. You see that the way a consumer consumes or buys products is changing. The e-commerce, the specialized stores, the whole landscape is changing, and the consumer, who is now armed with a lot of information today, his own aspirations have changed. Aspirations are very high. He wants a great tasting products, but he's become aware of what health means. So it must also have everything packed about health. He knows what the best product is like, so therefore he wants the best, but he also wants value with it, and so on and so forth. So there is a huge amount of change that is happening, and that's why we talk about an ITC about navigating the turn, turbulence, uncertainty, rapid change, and novel strategies. And given that it's the speed, scale, and scope of what is happening, so a lot more distributed leadership, a lot more empowerment in any enterprise is required. I'm a great believer in vision, values, and vitality. So we really look about everybody being tightly aligned to a vision, but loosely coupled with the adequate resources and degrees of freedom and values as a guide rail. And what we have to do and what we are doing in what we call the ITC Next strategy, much of it is not new, but I think is the manner and the scale and speed with which some of these aspects have to be applied. So the first and foremost is for us has been about how do you make sure your portfolio remains contemporary? How do you make sure your portfolio is future ready? Because a lot is changing, and no more is it going to be merely the world of the mass markets. It's all about micro segmentation. It's all about meeting specialized solutions for consumers. And we're doing this through a combination of inorganic and organic. Inorganic, for example, we bought Mother's Purse, which is a specialized natural baby care solutions provider. Internally, we launched something called Right Shift, which is a nutrition-dense product for 40 years and above for active lifestyles. So like that, lots more niches are going to emerge, and lots more micro-segmentation will be required. And this requires, of course, if you want to do it, it requires a far larger commitment on R&D. It is not R&D to be done when you cite the opportunities. I think you have to be future-facing. You have to take your bets in advance and create the platforms. Right Shift could not have been created if we had not invested in nutrition, for that matter. And I spoke about technology. Yeah, it's very important to be competitive. I mean, if you do not use digital, you're going to be obsolete very soon. And it's also leading to a lot of transformation in the way we work. When you do micro segmentation, the supply chains that we have today are not going to deliver what is required for the future. So the whole thing has to be reconstructed using digital. And one more, I think, important facet I'll mention, and then I'll stop here. Typically we've designed supply chains for efficiency, market servicing. These are always the things. What is becoming more important today, or equally important, is the bit of resilience. Resilience on account of geopolitics, resilience on account of climate change. Few years back, for example, the Rhine River, where much of logistics for industries in that belt happened, because of the warming, the water levels fell and logistics couldn't happen. Right? So these are disruptions on account of many things that will happen. So how do you kind of design for your own, how do you make sure that you are climate proofing your infrastructure, and how do you make sure that your own supply chain is studied for climate risks, and how are you kind of de-risking that? So many more dimensions to strategy and execution are coming up. So that's really the piece we are working on.
Thank you. So when I look at your various businesses, one thing which strikes me is complexity. In the agri business, you're talking about from generic to proprietary. Again, you are talking about building cohorts, you're talking about micro-segmentation. So it's no longer a business which is a simple business which involves sourcing, manufacturing, and distribution. It's become far more complex. So what do you tell yourself as a leader, when it comes to managing such complexities?
So I think first of all, as far as managing is concerned, I think it's the solution really lies in empowerment, distributed leadership, creating synergies around of enterprise resources and assets while being completely aligned as far as vision and values is concerned. And really, you have to, as an organization, I think the principle is that are you really focused and obsessed with creating stakeholder value? If you're obsessed with creating that value, then you have to be ready and you need the capacity to be adaptable, you need the capacity to change along with the circumstances. And to be able to manage the change, we need to invest in the capabilities that are important. So digital, for example, besides the strategy of organization, is a very important tool to manage complexity. So how are we invested in that? I think these are the kind of investing in the capabilities and being obsessed with the stakeholder and consumer value, and be flexible to be, be adaptable. And if I was to ask, and from my perspective as a leader, what do I look at in terms of what is important? I think for me it's very important to make sure that the organization has that environment where growth mindsets, entrepreneurial energy can flourish, where resources are available, where people are empowered, and where, innovation is a way of life. These are the things that, really I think about.
So ITC has recently demerged its hotel business. So how does this decision fit into your vision of building a future-ready conglomerate?
Well, the strategy of organization emanates from the business strategy. And one of the principles of growth and diversification ITC has followed is leveraging institutional capabilities that resides in various parts of the businesses. And if I was to leave hotels for a side and talk about the largest FMCG sector, which is foods, so it's the enterprise strengths of cuisine expertise, of agri-sourcing, of distribution, and our traditional strengths of brand building, etc., that have come together to help us to create a very large FMCG business. So synergy is important. So from our perspective, I think we look at the benefits of synergy and the benefits of being separate, and you look at the pros and cons and decide which is best at a point of time in the context of opportunity in the market, in the context of maturity and competitiveness of our businesses. So from that perspective, you see in the tourism industry, we realize that huge headroom to grow. The number of rooms per thousand in India is minuscule compared to global average, huge headroom to grow. And tourism is a very strong trend that is coming up. And the business had matured, it was competitive, and it was positioned well to grow on its own. That's why we kind of demerged it.
So I can see time's up. Just one last question. Had you not been heading a conglomerate like ITC, what is that? Is there any business which you would have dreamt of, which you would have loved to lead? Any industry that you would have loved to be in?
Well, I think I have spent nearly 4 decades in ITC, so there is nothing much I have done apart from being in ITC, so I can't really think beyond it. And ITC has exposed me to many of the sectors. So these are the sectors I enjoy, I thrive, and that's what fascinates me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Puri. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Puri, for joining us this evening, and thank you for that incredible food for thought that we managed to gather from this wonderful discussion. Can we have a louder round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? And on that note, now let's give a quick makeover to the stage again, because, you know, when we look back at COVID-19 pandemic, it was indeed termed as a black swan event. But black swan events, they become a way of life, be it geopolitical crisis, be it trade wars or climate change woes. Now, when we look at all of this, one thing that we know is that the CEOs have to deal with disruptions on day-to-day basis. So how are they navigating such turbulences and yet trying to build businesses of the future? Well, that's a big question coming your way. So let's get the answers as well from some of our incredible leaders who are joining us this evening. Well, as you can notice, we are going back-to-back with the sessions. We're going back-to-back with the insights flowing in from this side of the hall. I'm going to once again remind our members of the audience to please join the conversation using the hashtag Fortune India's Best CEOs. I repeat, hashtag Fortune India's Best CEOs. So with that, let's move ahead to our next topic of discussion, which is all about leadership in turbulent times. Now, this particular session will also be spearheaded by Nevin John, National Corporate Editor, Fortune India. So Nevin will be responsible in extracting all the relevant insights from all the leaders joining us at this very moment. All right, we're also setting the aesthetics for our camera people, so kindly oblige. Very important to get those angles right. So just a couple of seconds, and then we'll get the session started. All right, so on that note, let me also invite Nevin. Let me first invite you up on stage so that you and I can welcome your panelists and welcome these incredible leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, let me please invite on stage Mr. C.K. Venkatraman, Managing Director, Titan Company. Mr. Satish Pai, Managing Director, Hindalco Industries. Mr. Rajesh Jejurekar, Executive Director and CEO, Auto and Farm Sectors, Mahindra & Mahindra. And Mr. Abhishek Lodha, Managing Director and CEO, Lodha Developers. I welcome all our leaders here on stage, and with that, Nevin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the CEO session on leadership in turbulent times. Over the last 5 years, the corporate world has been going through extraordinary turbulences, starting from pandemic to supply chain disruptions to wars, sanctions, tariffs. The rapid rise of artificial intelligence also added new challenges, especially in the jobs and skilling areas. But however, the Indian companies remain unfazed in all these periods. The net sales of top 1,000 companies increased by almost 80% in the last 5 years. However, the net profit of the 1,000 companies jumped 4.5 times in the 5 years' time. That's a big achievement. So we have 4 of our great business leaders with us to tell you about how they steered their businesses through volatility, what mindset they adopted, and how they are going to how they are preparing for the uncertainties of tomorrow. Let's start with Mr. Venkatraman. Titan's premium play depends heavily on consumer sentiment and disposable income. How did macroeconomic challenges tested your resilience, and what lessons stand out?
See, one of the things we knew was that between 2020 and 2030, there was a doubling of the top 2 income classes in the country. The elite and the affluent, from 12%, they were jumping to 23%. And our company was very clearly aligned to those 2 classes, and we innovated substantially in that. The second thing was, all along we've been a very Bharat-focused company as well. So we've been moving deeper and deeper into the smallest of towns, and particularly the jewelry category is very deeply penetrated. The third is that we are a franchising-led company. We've got more than 1,000 entrepreneurs who are working with us to deliver value to customers in the nooks and corners. And the last thing is we are an exclusive brand outlet company. So we have more than 40 million customers about whom we know directly, and we are able to reach into them, build relationships, and that's been the story of our growth.
That's interesting. Mr. Satish, in fact, Hindalco also there was a phase like high debt, low profitability, high volatile commodity market. And over a period of time, you have multiplied your profits. What were the key leadership strategies that guided this transformation?
So look, when you are a manufacturing company like us in the commodity world, you have to realize that market turmoil now has become a sort of a daily issue for us. And the second thing you also realize is that the price of the metal, which is for us aluminum and copper, is actually set by somebody else and not by you. So I think the strategies that we have adopted during these type of times is focus on what you can control. I think this is a clear message to the organization, which is very important, not to read the headlines, but you're a manufacturing company, so run safe operations, produce good quality products, take care of your customers and employees. And if you do this, then I think that over the periods of ups and downs, you will outperform your competition. The second thing that's very clear is that in times of turmoil, the market throws up opportunities. And what we saw in the last 4 years is that with the geopolitical uncertainties, the Indian manufacturing industry, I think, has a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take advantage of. So whether it is in the building and construction, whether it's on the automotive sector, people are trying to diversify away from China and come to India. And I think that we took a lot of those opportunities to move into the value-added space. And I think that really helped. And last, I think as a leader, you have to keep things simple and communicate. So I think in turmoil, what people in the plants, people in your organization need is very clear and simple communication. That helps.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. Rajesh, in fact, Mahindra maintained SUV dominance while you were building EVs and also you were building indigenous skateboard chassis. So how tough was balancing the legacy and new age businesses during turbulence?
Yeah, thanks, Nevin, and pleasure to be on the panel with everyone here. You know, it's just 5 years, but seems like a lifetime. Honestly, when we embarked on the EV journey, we were new to it completely. And the first thing was to tell ourselves that we needed the humility to know that we didn't know. And when you get into that mindset, then you're far more open to figuring out where to get knowledge, where to get technology, how do you build partnerships. And one of the things that we did very early on was a very clear set of what is it that we want to be good at and excel in, and what is it that we don't mind buying out, which we don't think will be the basis of differentiation. So we had basically defined design, software interface, which is the customer user interface, as the key factors which we wanted to own. And everything else we were open to going out and buying. So that was one thing. The other very important learning in this journey was, you know, we originally thought that EVs are all new and let's create a team in Detroit which, you know, is going to be able to do the product development from there. And pretty soon we realized that actually that we'll never be able to build scale there. And we had to use a lot of our conventional people who had worked on powertrains, actually, our diesel and gasoline engines. And literally overnight when we made that decision, we moved 800 people out of current programs and set up a complete new EV center. But we did everything differently. It was a completely different set of team. And a key part of the leadership time, including my own, though I'm not a tech person, was spent in getting us EV ready because it was new and it needed very agile decision making on the go. So we had to separate teams and we had to resource very strongly for it.
Mr. Lodha, real estate cycles are sharp with cash flows fluctuating and while the costs stay constant. So how did you navigate the fluctuating economy and what were the key lessons emerged?
Neville, thanks for having me on this panel and thanks for this wonderful audience that's here today. In terms of real estate, our belief is that India is going through this once-in-a-lifetime transition from low income to mid-income. And these transitions, typically we've seen it in the US, we've seen it in China, mean very long real estate cycles. Not the conventional 6-8 year cycle, but more like the 15, 20 or even longer cycle. And real estate and housing lead to the creation of the middle class and of course benefit from the creation of the middle class. While of course there will be tough periods or bad years in this, we believe that keeping leverage low is the only one mantra which we can sort of exercise while making sure that our eyes are on what's really happening in the marketplace, which is a consumer which is extremely aspirational and an economy which has great capacity to grow. So while if we keep focused on those two and keep leverage low, then I think there are great opportunities for our team to capitalize and build strong brands in a segment or an industry which is extremely close to the consumer's heart.
Okay, the strong foundations are vital for survival in crisis. When Mr. N. Chandrasekharan became the chairman, his primary mantra was like fitness first, performance next. So, Mr. Venkatraman, what defines the right mindset during turbulence? Is it patience, decisiveness, empathy, or a mix of all?
Actually, I would start with calmness. We need to be very calm in those times and not take ourselves too seriously. Like Devina said, too much of attribution is made to the role of CEOs in this, and Mr. Puri said distributed leadership. So I think it's about a shared problem and problem solving with a lot of empathy and stakeholder focus.
Yeah, that's it. Satish, Hindalco is in the midst of 10 billion investment and you are going to complete your Alabama project. So what drives such long-term financial commitments when there is geopolitical uncertainty is there?
So, I was interestingly listening to Prashant and Devina talk about short-term versus long-term in a CEO. So when you're actually, again, in a metals cycle, you have to realize that your investment size, the minimum is $1 billion, 8,000 crores. The cycle you're looking at is for your plant to come out is 3 to 5 years. So I think that, for us, you have to make a bet on your commodity, which is for us aluminum and copper. And we are quite sure that with electrification, EVs, there is going to be a demand. So then your investment cycle, you can't look at the current quarter and see what XYZ president is doing or what. You have to take a look and say that, how is the strength of your balance sheet? Do you have the cash to invest? And you are making a bet that the market 3 to 5 years down the road is going to be strong. So that's why I think that, we are going ahead with a $10 billion investment plan, because we think that in 3 to 5 years, the demand for aluminum and copper is going to be strong. And we have the money to invest now.
The confidence about the market. Mr. Mahindra also plans about some 27,000 crore investment. And also looking to launch some 12 SUVs by 2030. So is it competition or the opportunity that fuels your rapid expansion?
No, competition, I strongly believe, is the worst thing to get over-obsessed with. You have to be very focused on who your customer is and can be and what can you do to get the best proposition out to them. So yes, it's totally driven by an opportunity. The category, in a way we say we own the authentic SUV category. That was really small 5 years back. And when we launched the Thar 3-door in 2020, most people didn't give it any chance because no one in India visualized that anyone will use a 3-door vehicle, which means 2 doors in front and 1 in the back, so 2 doors. It was a very clear, no, this can't sell in India. But within a year, we scaled up to 6,000 a month, which was a very significant volume. And understanding customers really and what drives them at a point of time, I think is what we get obsessed with.
So when it comes to real estate, execution speed is so critical. So how do you build agile teams that anticipate shocks rather than responding to it?
Neville, I believe that there is a layer, given the complexity of the real estate business, there's a layer in the organization whose role is to absorb the shocks and to leave the rest of the teams to do what they're very good at. I think, me and a few of our colleagues were quite frankly not very good at anything. play this role of absorbing the external shocks and making sure that the rest of the organization can keep focusing on what they really do very well, which is to build great product, design it well, and make sure that consumers get what they want, both in terms of product and service. I think, there is so much talk out there about how complexity is growing, how we are in a very volatile world. But we within the organization believe that yes, all of that is happening. And yet, what our category stands for is stability and a very, very long-term view. The product that we build ends up being owned for very long periods of time. The replacement cycles are very long. And hence, it's very important for us to focus on that very long-term picture and, let these volatile times be just what they are. They, as they say, this too shall pass.
Okay, interesting. So the key takeaways is largely like clarity of purpose, flexibility in execution, and conviction in long-term vision. These will define the true leadership in turbulence. So please join me in thanking our distinguished panel for their valuable insights. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. If I could request all our panelists to come together for a group photograph. Diverse industries, yet we managed to gather collective wisdom from each of our leaders here through this incredible and yet a crisp panel discussion. Thank you once again for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, on that note, let me also inform you all that we are deeply honored to have the presence of the Honorable Union Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal. Can we have a huge round of applause to also welcome him to Fortune India's Best CEOs Awards. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening, for bringing in your gravitas and your presence here at India Inc. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. With that, let's also shift the gears a little bit over here, because now we're about to move forward to our next topic of discussion, which is all about the India transformation story. In fact, this evening, we also have the presence of a visionary, an architect of modern Indian banking, a technologist ahead of his time, and also a mentor who not just built organizations, but also built a generation of leaders. This particular discussion will be spearheaded once again by Saurav Majumdar, Editor-in-Chief, Fortune India. But as we set the stage, we are about to hear from a very prolific leader as we put our sights and our eyes into the India transformation story. So on that transformative note, it is only befitting that I invite on stage, ladies and gentlemen, for this incredible session that will be spearheaded by Saurav Majumdar. And I'd like to please invite on stage, we have with us none other than Shri KV Kamath. Can we have a thunderous round of applause, a dynamic round of applause to match the dynamism of Shri KV Kamath. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us this evening. And with that, Mr. Majumdar, over to you.
Good evening, Mr. Kamath, and thank you very much for joining us this evening. You know, we have met many times. I have interviewed you several times during the course of my career, and I have seen how, the transformative impact you've had, not just on the ICICI Bank, but many other institutions and corporate sector and the financial sector as a whole. We have the Honorable Minister here with us, and we'd like to hear from you as somebody who has been witness to a transformation of this country and the economy for so many years. What are the 2 or 3 key milestones you think changed the game for India?
I think my story actually in terms of transformation starts with an India which was transforming, mid-90s. And so you needed to then transform the enterprise that you are in, because the old had changed, and sticking to that would have meant disaster. And along that path, you looked at several other things that are also changing. Technology was changing. People's aspirations were changing. Per capita incomes were growing. So how do you evolve in a continuous manner? And if I cut to today, nothing has changed, because you are even more in the midst of, I would say, accelerated change, driven by all the things that we hear today. So I would guess that for the foreseeable future, we will be in an evolving world where you transform yourself or you perish.
What are the key transformatory shifts you are witnessing as India moves ahead in the per capita income journey towards Viksit Bharat?
I think there are two things that are key, which need to be put into context. Viksit Bharat is here, and that is a reality because we have a long runway. We have a runway which no other country has in terms of things to do to transform this nation. And that itself provides you the acceleration path towards growth. The only other country where this has happened in the recent past, I think, is already reached the end of its 25-year cycle. In the previous century, you had Japan, which went through a 20-25-year cycle. It's now our turn. And we are just into it, so we have a robust 20-25 years where starting from the village level to towns to cities, there will need to be rejuvenation. Our businesses will have to rejuvenate. And all this will be driven by an aspiring class, which will demand more, rightly so, and people who will make sure that their dreams are met and their aspirations are fulfilled. So I think the growth path is very clear. We have clean balance sheets in the banking sector. The government runs a very tight, I would say, fiscal policy. The finances are very clear. Corporate balance sheets are clean. Banking balance sheets are clean. The capital market has come of age. So I think we have all the makings of keeping and going on that long journey and being Viksit in the next 20-25 years.
You have been, Mr. Kamath, a big votary of technology, and we've sort of in our Best CEOs issue, we've also talked about how your tryst with technology has evolved over the years. Technology in terms of the DPI, for instance, in India, the direct public infrastructure, the digital public infrastructure which has happened, has been one of the key elements sort of powering the startup wave and the wave of innovation. How do you see that going forward?
Without that, innovation and without the regulators allowing that to be used, very correctly so, using sandboxes to do that, I do not think that our path would have been that easy. And particularly our path through the COVID years would not have been easy. And now that, in a way, everybody has accepted it. Finally, it's the public at large that has to accept it. They have accepted it. I think the journey becomes much simpler. But even as we celebrate that, I think there are newer and more exciting things in the fore. That is everything to do with this word AI. It's not as simple as it looks, but it's not, and I think our companies will effectively utilize this to good of the country. And a whole lot of evolving technologies over the last 10 or 15 years. So everything coming together means that, I put it very simply, it's not only the CEO who has to be a technocrat, but the entire organization has to be, should have the mind of a technocrat.
Mr. Kamath, you have, today we are at a stage where banking itself, as we have discussed earlier, is undergoing a major transformation in terms of the fact that the arbitrage advantages are sort of collapsing between banks, NBFCs, and other players in the financial market. How do you see the evolving role of a bank in these times, since you have been a leading banker and one of the most innovative ones at that?
I think all financial services companies will have to reinvent themselves because technology is going to be otherwise. Technology otherwise is going to be the big leveler. And any bank which absorbs technology effectively and makes it available to its customers, I think stands a very good chance to be the leader, the next leader in this field. And so would any other financial sector player, not just a bank. So I think there is a huge, I would say, opportunity ahead. And in the midst of that opportunity, there could be a churn also. Any institution which has the ability to and the guts to take this on, I think is going to be the winner. And this I'm not talking just banking, I'm talking financial sector wide.
So, Mr. Kamath, we are almost out at the end of time. Just wanted to ask you, since you've been a visionary leader, and we are here in a room which is full of iconic business leaders, what is your leadership mantra and what is your advice to budding leaders who are young leaders of tomorrow in that sense?
I celebrate the young leaders. I take heart from them. I get energy from them. So, there's very little that I could tell them, but I guess that they've done everything right. They will now have to do everything right at double the pace. In the olden days, I used to say there's a 90-day rule. That 90-day rule to implement any project, and that included technology projects, I think has just crashed to 30 days. So if you look at anything around you, could possibly change in 30 days. Because a few years back, I had asked, in those days, one of the few AI experts, at what pace is AI changing? Is it, like Moore's law, every 2 years, the price performance, becomes, comes down by a square or improves by a square? He says no, it is every 3.4 months. The other day I asked him the same question. This was 7 years back. He said it's now every month. So I think a bit of paranoia is probably good in today's world. But at the same time, you'll have to keep your eyes on several things that are happening in the organization. As Satish said, don't worry about things you can't control, worry about things you can control. And I think there are a lot of things you can control. But technology, you need to be on top of.
A titan of Indian banking and the financial sector, ladies and gentlemen. A major round of applause for Kundapur Vaman Kamath.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kamath. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you once again, sir. We're truly grateful for your strength of conviction and your generosity of guidance, and most importantly, your transformative influence that you continue to have on all of us and the India. And can we have a louder round of applause one more time, ladies and gentlemen, for Shri K.V. Kamath. On that incredible note, as we march ahead, this is that time of the evening where I'd now like to invite on stage someone who stands at the crossroads of heritage and innovation, a young visionary redefining what modern Indian leadership looks like, one bold decision at a time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to please invite on stage Mr. Shashwat Goenka, Vice Chairman, RPSG Group. Can we have a huge round of applause? A dynamic round of applause, everyone. Mr. Shashwat Goenka.
Good evening, distinguished leaders, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to welcome you to Fortune India's Best CEOs, a night that celebrates vision, execution, and the ability to lead organizations through both opportunity and uncertainty. Tonight, we honor leaders who have delivered exceptional value, not by chance, but by choice, by showing clarity in crisis, courage in complexity, and consistency in performance. This evening, we also celebrate something bigger, the India story that has provided the canvas on which these leaders draw their success. Today, India stands as the world's fastest growing major economy. What's remarkable is not just the headline growth, but the direction of the indicators. The RBI, IMF, and the World Bank have all revised India's growth forecast upward to 6.6 to 6.8% for FY26, affirming confidence in India's structural momentum. And this momentum is visible across the board. Investment activity is accelerating. Gross fixed capital formation has grown 7.1%. Government capex has crossed over 11 lakh crores. Banks have sanctioned more than 907 new projects worth 3.68 lakh crore, a clear evidence of a new capex cycle that's taking shape. The external sector is also showing resilience. Exports touched $824.9 billion despite global headwinds. And global confidence in India is at an all-time high. FDI inflows crossed $81 billion, up 14%, signaling trust in India's long-term stability and the opportunity it has to offer. And when I talk about corporate India, it's delivering historic performance. India's top 500 firms reported a 15 lakh crore in net profits, up from 10.6 lakh crores just 2 years ago. Cash balances are rising faster than debt. The profit to GDP ratio for listed companies is at a 17-year high, and Indian companies have raised 3.8 lakh crores in capital last year, which is the highest ever in the history of India. And none of this has happened by accident. It has happened because India's economy, its institutions, and its leadership are all aligned in purpose. And this is a reflection of new India, urbanizing, aspirational, digital first, shaped by India's rising consumption story and from becoming Atmanirbhar. Put simply, India is not just growing, India is transforming. And the CEOs in this room are amongst the most important architects of this transformation. It is your leadership that has shown that growth is not merely a macroeconomic story, it is a management story. It is the story of leaders who could see where the world was going and build organizations ready for that future. Leaders who reorganized supply chains, rethought business models, invested in people, and backed innovation, staying disciplined through the many ups and downs and the different cycles. But if there is one message that should leave us, it is this. India's rise is not an accident of circumstance, it is a consequence of leadership. Every sector represented in today's awards has proved that when Indian companies commit to ambition, to discipline, and to innovation, the world takes notice. We are no longer participating in the global economy. We are shaping it. And tonight, it's a celebration of that spirit. Each winner represents excellence, not just in performance, but in philosophy. Not just in metrics, but in mindset. Not just in what they built, but in what they enabled. On behalf of the entire Fortune India team, thank you for being here, and thank you for the leadership that you demonstrate every day. My warmest congratulations to each and every one of you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I have the extreme honor and privilege to introduce to you our chief guest of the day, Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. He is a man with an earnest dedication, a man with stellar leadership skills, a man who is unassuming but has been extremely successful in everything that he has done, a man with exceptional make-it-happen skills. In him, we see a thought-provoking leader with a far-reaching nature for things that will benefit 1 billion Indians and leave a lasting impact on the economy of our nation. He has truly left huge legacies in every portfolio he has handled, setting the stage for India to truly become a superpower. He is someone who's extremely dynamic, extremely vibrant, and has been for me a personal inspiration. He epitomizes the new and resilient India, an India which sets global standards and is ready to take its rightful place in the new world order. A country marching confidently towards a Viksit Bharat. His unrelenting passion and energy galvanizes all of us as an industry into achieving higher standards and consistently striving for excellence. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again with a warm round of applause to welcome Honorable Minister of Commerce and Industry, Shri Piyush Goyal ji. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us today. So India is now one of the world's fastest growing economy, even in the face of a global slowdown. So as you look ahead to Viksit Bharat in 2047, what do you see are the three most critical growth levers that India must prioritize over the next decade?
I think, first of all, it's important that we start adopting technology and not fighting shy from it. Yeah. With the advent of artificial intelligence, with the shift in global trade, with the newer and newer threats coming to India, coming to the world through cyber security, all of these are going to present a huge opportunity for India. We need to adopt that, we need to accept that, and we need to really leverage our talent and skill on that. Another area which, to my mind, is very important for all of India to understand is quality. I still remember as a child, if you would go to the store, you would ask the storekeeper, can I get an export quality suit or an export quality pair of shoes? I think we need to change that mindset in India, that anything and everything we do, goods, services, every action of ours should be of a high quality standard. So if we look at hospitality, for example, I was just talking to the Oberoi CEO, sky is the limit that India can leverage. Mm-hmm. We have very high hospitality standards. Of course, we need to do a lot more skilling and reskilling and training of our people. But quality always pays off in the long run. Quality is not expensive. Mm-hmm. It is always cheaper in the long run. And I think this consciousness is coming amongst consumers, amongst Indian industry. We have Mr. Subramaniam here. Everybody is vying to get an L&T construction quickly. If we can take some more clones, probably we could have a few more L&Ts in the country. So it's all about quality, and quality is respected. And third, we cannot but accept the fact that sustainability is going to be at the core of any development agenda in the long run. Maybe for a short period of time, there may be a pause, which we are seeing in recent times. But I think the world recognizes, and we as a global citizen, as a responsible global citizen, would like to be a part of the global effort towards sustainable lifestyles, towards reducing waste or recycling waste, and reusing as many things as we can. And my sense is that if we focus ourselves on innovation, quality, and sustainability, it'll be a sure shot cocktail for success.
Absolutely, sir. From technology to innovation to quality and the circular economy that you touched upon, I think all are absolutely very important for us to get to the state of being a developed country. But just talking about the trade negotiations we have with developed countries across the world, what is the guiding principle that is shaping India's trade negotiations today? And especially as we aim to become a global manufacturing and services hub.
You know, quality and innovation can also be seen in our trade strategies today. And I'll explain to you why. For the first time, India today has a standard operating process, SOP, of how we are going to do trade negotiations, with whom we are going to do trade negotiations. And unless we check the boxes and we are convinced that this can be a good win-win situation, we don't enter into a trade negotiation. Also, in terms of the kind of countries with whom we are engaging is far different from the past. I recall when I first became Commerce Minister on 1st June 2019, the first issue that I was to address was India's joining the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, RCEP. Incidentally, and I may take a few minutes with your permission to explain to you, because I think it's important to understand where we were going wrong if we have to do it right in the future. India was never a part of RCEP negotiations in the first place. It was a group of 15 countries, the 10 ASEAN countries, China, Japan and Korea, Australia and New Zealand. They had started negotiations. India was not in that original negotiation. And look at these 15 countries. We already had an FTA with ASEAN. Not that it's a balanced or a good FTA, it's with our competitor countries. But be that as it may, we had it. We had a free trade agreement with Japan and Korea. So 12 countries, we were already having a free trade agreement. With Australia, we were on the verge of striking an agreement at the point we decided to join RCEP negotiations. And because RCEP negotiations we joined, we aborted the Australia negotiations. So country 13. Country 14 was New Zealand, with whom at that point of time, today it's pretty much different, but at that point of time, bilateral trade was only $300 million. Not a significant trade. And who was the 15th country? China. Effectively, I'm not trying to politicize it, Shashwat, but effectively the Congress was putting India and Indian manufacturing and Indian businesses, particularly our MSME sector, at the mercy of China. We were entering into a free trade agreement with China. And I can't even explain to you, when I got into the files, the kind of horrific stories that I saw in the files, what we were going to be foregoing and what we were going to be offering in that deal. And I started talking to industry. I did 200 industry engagements. Some of them may be in the room today, I don't know. Satish Pai, at least I can see for sure. Out of 200 industry engagements, only 3 told me we should join RCEP. The rest were absolutely against RCEP. There may have been a few who had no comments. And it took a lot of courage when Prime Minister Modi stood on 4th November in Bangkok that year to say that the RCEP is not acceptable to India, it does not meet the guiding principles. And I'll tell you, I'll give you just one example. I was engaging with the Chinese minister, and he was telling me, why are you worried about China? You must join RCEP. It'll do good for both of us. I said, okay, you just give me one assurance. Believe me. I said, give me one assurance that every product you sell to India, you will allow us to check that the payment of that product was made entirely from the counterparty in India, and there was no 2 sets of payments, one going from India and one from somewhere else. Just that much assurance to make sure that the full price of the good you are supplying to India is paid for by India, so that the custom value is also correct. And I'm ready to consider doing it. He said, no, we can't do that. You cannot check where we got the payment from. I said, and we were having coffee or tea, I said, in India, the cost of raw material of this cup and saucer is more than the cost of finished product duly packed, transported to India that we get from China. How are we going to survive as a nation? And we decided not to do that deal. Today, who are the countries with whom we are dealing? All developed and advanced countries. We've entered into an FTA with Australia. We've entered into an FTA with UAE. with UK, the four-nation EFTA bloc, Switzerland, Norway, Iceland, and Liechtenstein. What are their per capita incomes? The four-nation EFTA bloc ranges from $100,000 to $180,000. UK is at about $50,000. Australia is at about $45,000. UAE, depends how you see it, but it's a big market, open market, opportunities galore, and we've done well after the FTA. All developed countries with large per capita incomes, where our competitive issues are much less. In fact, we complement each other's economies. And that opens up a floodgate of opportunities. And by the way, an agreement is a win-win for both parties. You've got to forego something if you want market access in the other country. But then, if on any product that are open to these markets, we are not able to compete. I mean, our per capita income is at $2,500, $3,000. If we can't compete with a product being made by these countries with a $45,000 or $50,000 per capita income, then we jolly well need not make that product unless it's of strategic importance. Then jolly well we should import it, because ultimately the nation has 1.4 billion consumers. 140 crore consumers should also have a say. How long are we going to protect in industry and cause our consumers to pay more? It can be a transitional period, it can be for some amount of time. But ultimately, if we can't compete with a $50,000 per capita economy, we better get out of that business, because all theories of competitive advantage or competitive advantage suggest that we should in an integrated, globalized world, look at doing what we are best at.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, sir. Just shifting thoughts to, the startup ecosystem, and I think in India today we have the world's third largest startup ecosystem. What are the next steps to ensure that Indian startups scale globally, especially in sectors such as deep tech, defense, AI, advanced electronics?
I made some comments about our startup ecosystem at the Startup Mahakumbh. And initially I thought it had caused a storm, because I was blasted through social media as if I was not respecting the Shashwat Goenkas of the world for whatever they were achieving, and I was criticizing wealth created by billionaires, which was not true. And then I got my office, the boy who did it is standing in this room. We got my office to study the entire attack on me. And other than Mohandas Pai, and he's a dear friend of mine, he can take a few liberties with me, and 50-50 comment from the Zepto founder. He's also a very dear friend. I love the boy. He's doing some wonderful work. Other than that, it was only the Congress ecosystem, top to bottom, which had attacked me. And I promise you, since that day, wherever I go, on a flight, in a public program, 2 or 3 youngsters come up to me and thank me for my comments there. It was kind of a wake-up call. India needs to move over into high-tech, into innovation, encourage the deep tech startups. And for example, we've just promised a 10,000 crore startup fund of fund, tranche 2. I'm allocating the entire fund to deep tech startups. There's enough capital for other industries in the marketplace. Deep techs do have a difficulty because the horizon is very long. Success ratios may not be very good. And frankly, I have a complaint to many of the billionaires I see before me, including you, that our Indian domestic capital is not coming sufficiently to support Indian startups. So I do wish to see Indian companies, Swadeshi capital, coming in a big way to promote the startups, because there's tremendous potential. And sadly, our startups sell out a large part of their equity ownership at an abysmally low price, very low price. when they need that first seed capital or early stage funding, the sharks out there, I even probably criticized Shark Tank and got a beating for that too. The sharks out there just tend to kill these ideas or buy them out very cheap. I want to appeal to all of you, ladies and gentlemen here. Let's look at more domestic pools of capital supporting startups. If we were to do what Silicon Valley did with their innovation ecosystem, supplemented with the 1 lakh crores that we have just announced in the Research Development and Innovation Fund, RDI Fund, I think we can do wonders in India. Our talent is second to none. Our young men and women can really do what nobody in the world can do. They do all of that in NASA. They do all of that in Silicon Valley. There are at least probably 3,000-4,000 Indians of substance who've made it big in just the Bay Area.
Absolutely.
So I think there's no reason why we in India, supported by all of you, and through pooled capital. Very often I'm told that there are family offices which do these things. Look, family offices are not going to take big risks. Family offices will not be able to really reach the people who really need that money. And they will not be able to reach the family offices. They'll never be able to get into RPG's headquarters, right? So we'll need to have pooled capital. Sorry, I hope you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
I'm using you because you're like a little kid to me. I can take you as an example. But honestly, we need to have pooled capital, domestic capital, supplementing the money that the government puts up. And by the way, India can be a great innovation hub. Innovation India can be done at 1/5, 1/6 the cost of what happens in Switzerland or America. And that 1 lakh crore coupled with private capital can lead to 15-20 lakh crores of innovation, equivalent to what would be done in Singapore, in Switzerland or Singapore or Saudi or anywhere else. So we really need to think big, and I hope I will hear some good news. Maybe Fortune India can initiate a movement to get domestic capital excited about the startup ecosystem.
So I just wanted to add that we at RPSG are now starting to invest a lot in startups in all of these areas.
Good. Very good.
But sir, you spoke about quality, and that becomes very important when you look at India from a global supply chain standpoint. So what do you think is required to be done for India to become to be considered more as a trusted, high quality products and services nation?
Gradually, and particularly after COVID, India is being looked upon as a trusted partner. The stability in policy, the predictability that India provides today, far better than what Europe or America provide. I think we have the talent, we have the ability to produce high quality goods, offer high quality services. What we need, I think, is just a mindset change. The basic jugaad mindset, and it's gradually reducing, but that chalta hai approach, if that can be changed, if we all start looking at high quality, for example, look at the building constructions all over the place. If you tell the masons or you tell the people who are building that building that, look, this wall is not aligned, he'll say, "Saab, 2 mm hi to farak hai, kya badi baat hai?" He doesn't realize that 2 mm can be a nightmare when you're doing your interiors and when you're planning the rest of the furniture, when modular furniture comes in. I mean, as you go into deeper and deeper, you'll find that the multiplier impact of that 2 mm will be terrible. And I think we still really need to significantly change the mindset towards perfection. If collectively, maybe we are all quite old and passé, but just our youth can be inculcated the spirit of precision and quality being paramount, of being really focused on meticulous work. I'll give you a small example. When I did my chartered accountancy, I remember my senior was a very small firm, very, very small firm. He was a paraplegic, my senior, where I was doing my articles. He would not allow a 1 paisa difference in the balance sheet, either on the debit or credit side. 1 paisa. And I tell you, it was so frustrating trying to tell him that, it's just 1 paisa, we can just adjust it somewhere. Must be some damn transposition error or something somewhere along the line. But his consistent point was, no, it could be probably 1 crore of rupees on one side and 1 crore and 1 paisa on the other side, which could have caused this mistake. And if all the children in their school, in their college can be given this mindset of being highly conscious of accuracy, meticulous in their work, focus on quality, country will get into a double-digit growth very, very quickly.
And so my last question to you. So corporate in India has benefited from stable taxation, ease of doing business practices and reforms, and the major infrastructure push from the side of the government. So what role do you expect that the CEOs in the room should play to complement the government's push towards a Viksit Bharat?
Well, you are not going to complement our push. You are going to create Viksit Bharat. We will complement your push. You are the ladies and gentlemen who are going to really make India a developed and prosperous nation. Prime Minister often says that this will be a collective commitment and effort of 1.4 billion Indians. Government can only play the role of a facilitator, and government needs to stay out of your business, needs to stay out of your hair. In fact, as recently as our last cabinet meeting, or not the cabinet meeting, a few days ago, maybe a week ago, he was interacting with exporters. And one of the comments he made after that meeting was that, look at the IT sector and how successful the IT sector in India was. Because when Mr. Vajpayee was Prime Minister in the 98-99 period, and the Y2K bug hit the world, I mean, it never hit the world, but the damn world thought sky is going to fall on their head. And for no rhyme or reason, we got a huge push and a great opportunity in the IT sector. And we converted that into a great opportunity. We never looked back since then. But at that point of time, Mr. Vajpayee took the sage decision to leave the IT sector completely on its own. Not bring in too much regulation, not try to create too many obstacles to their work. And look at how it has flourished over the last 25 years. We wish to do that. And we want you to be demanding. Please ask of us what more we can do to complement your efforts, to help you work better. Whether it's decriminalizing laws, removing some obsolete laws, helping compliance has become easier, compliance burden being reduced, whatever we can do. Some things may happen fast, some things may have other dimensions which you may not immediately understand, but in government you have to have a very 360-degree view before you take action. But I can assure you, our intent is speed, our intent is to make your life easier, to make it easier to do business in India, and our intent is to become a facilitator to all of you so that Viksit Bharat does not remain just the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or the mission of this government, but it is the collective mission of 1.4 billion Indians. If we all work together as a team, there's absolutely no power on earth that can stop India from becoming both a developed and a prosperous country on the back of inclusive and sustainable development.
Thank you so much for that, sir. And to all the leaders in the room, no pressure. But ladies and gentlemen, please join me once again in thanking Mr. Piyush Goyal ji, a visionary, a thought leader, honest, humble, unassuming, and charismatic. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Shashwat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for your unwavering dedication, your impactful leadership, and most importantly, your commitment to progress. On that note, I will also be requesting Shri Piyush Goyal ji and Mr. Shashwat Goenka to remain on stage as we are about to set the stage for the awards felicitations that's about to begin within the next couple of seconds. With that, let's also quickly set the stage. And also joining Mr. Goenka and Shri Piyush Goyal ji on the dais, I'd like to also please invite Mr. Saurav Mazumdar, Editor-in-Chief, Fortune India, to join in as we get the felicitation started and as we gear up for Fortune India's Best CEOs Awards. Meanwhile, I'd also like to bring to your attention that we will be inviting leaders in the alphabetical order of the categories, and at the same time this year, the winners of Fortune India's Best CEOs Awards will also receive an exclusive 2-night stay at the Oberoi Rajgarh Palace, Khajuraho, which is a 350-year-old palace now beautifully restored and newly opened by the Oberoi Group in order for all of you, all the leaders, to experience the legendary Oberoi hospitality. So with that, it looks like we're all set. I believe without any further delay, let's get the awards proceedings started. And as I informed earlier, we will be inviting the leaders in the alphabetical order of the categories. So first up, in the auto ancillaries category, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together and let's hear it for Mr. Nirmal Kumar Minda, Executive Chairman, Uno Minda. From a single factory in Delhi's Wazirabad, the company now operates 75 facilities. In fact, he has nearly spent 50 years navigating Uno Minda through many a storm and coming right on top. Ladies and gentlemen, Shri Nirmal Kumar Minda. With that, let's shift the gears and march ahead in the automobiles, commercial vehicles category. Ladies and gentlemen, let me please invite Mr. Prasanth Firodia, Managing Director, Force Motors. Well, he's the man who's always on the move, and that's because he's reinventing Force Motors and leading its global play. The company has expanded to 22 countries thus far, and Mr. Firodia plans to increase the footprint by 4 to 5 countries every year. Marching ahead in the auto, passenger vehicles, four-wheelers category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep that applause coming as I invite Mr. Anish Shah, Group CEO and Managing Director, Mahindra Group, and Mr. Rajesh Jejurikar, Executive Director and CEO, Auto and Farm Sectors, Mahindra and Mahindra. The dynamic duo are leading M&M to stronger future, and if Mr. Shah has set the foundation by focusing on the core authentic SUV business, Mr. Jejurikar took the baton to engineer, design and manufacture marquee ICE vehicles. Marching ahead in the capital goods category, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to please invite Mr. Kushal N. Desai, Chairman and Managing Director, Apar Industries. We have with us Mr. Chaitanya Desai, Managing Director, Apar Industries, to receive the award on behalf of Mr. Kushal Desai. Can we have a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen? Let's hear it also for Shri Kushal N. Desai. Chairman and Managing Director of world's largest aluminum and alloy conductor manufacturer. It's also the third largest transformer oil manufacturer globally. Congratulations. We now move on to the cement category. And with that, let me please invite on stage Mr. K.C. Jhawar, Managing Director, Ultratech Cement. While the industry environment shifted faster than anyone could have anticipated, from price pressures, fuel volatility, and to dramatically changing operating landscape, yet Mr. Jhawar turned every challenge into an opportunity to learn, adapt, and emerge stronger. Can we have a strong round of applause one more time, ladies and gentlemen, for Shri K.C. Jhawar, Managing Director, Ultratech Cement. As we continue going back to back with this incredible set of felicitations, we now move on to the chemicals category. Ladies and gentlemen, well, let's have a huge round of applause as I invite Mr. Madhukar B. Parekh, Chairman, Pidilite Industries. Be it a carpenter, a builder, an art teacher, a homemaker, or a child, there's hardly anyone who wouldn't relate to the adhesive brand and the tagline, "Ye Fevicol ka jod hai, tootega nahi." In fact, Shri Madhukar Parekh has built one of India's most iconic brands backed by powerful advertising. So Fevicol ka jod jaisa zordar talia bhi ho jaye, everyone. Let's hear it for Shri Madhukar B. Parekh. As we take that inspiration forward, as we take that leadership forward, let's march ahead, because up next we're moving on to the consumer durables category. And ladies and gentlemen, let's invite on stage none other than Mr. Inder T. Jaisanghani, Chairman and Managing Director, Polycab India. Driven by innovation and automation, Mr. Inder T. Jaisanghani has turned Polycab into India's top wire and cable maker. Not only is Polycab India's largest manufacturer of wires and cables, it has also diversified into switches, lighting, and fans. We now come to the next category. This is the FMCG category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Sanjeev Puri, Chairman and Managing Director, ITC Limited. From a conventional mass product distribution-led FMCG business to a strategy of building specialized brands, creating micro-consumer segments, and differentiated go-to-market approaches, Mr. Sanjeev Puri's game plan is to always stay ahead of the curve at a time when turbulence and volatility have become a way of life. On that note, let's now move on to the healthcare category, ladies and gentlemen. And let's have an august round of applause as we felicitate Dr. Pratap C. Reddy, Chairman of Apollo Hospitals. We'll have a healthy round of applause because we have with us Viraj Madhav Reddy, the youngest grandson of Dr. Pratap C. Reddy. He's also an aspiring healthcare leader with clinical experience in the UK NHS, with a strong interest in health technology research and quality improvement. All right, so on that incredible note, let's move on to the hospitality category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Puneet Chatwal, Managing Director and CEO, Indian Hotels Company. When he took over the reins of the Tata Group's hospitality business in 2017, the mandate given to him was to reimagine and reinvent the legacy hotel chain. From revitalizing Taj Hotels to reshaping strategy, he has turned IHCL into hospitality powerhouse. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Puneet Chatwal. Well, that now brings us to the IT services large cap category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a large round of applause for Mr. C. Vijayakumar, CEO and Managing Director, HCL Technologies. He indeed is the AI visionary. In fact, his early focus on artificial intelligence, platform adoption, and stressing on innovation around AI and GenAI is literally reaping fruits and benefits. Mr. C. Vijayakumar, CEO and Managing Director, HCL Technologies. We take the felicitations forward and we move ahead to IT services mid-cap category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Dr. Anand Deshpande, founder, chairman, and managing director, Persistent Systems, and Mr. Sandeep Kalra, CEO, Persistent Systems. Well, we can be a little more persistent with the applause as well, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep it coming because they are persistent and they never give up. And their company, Persistent Systems, is the living proof of that. With that, we now move on to the insurance category. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll keep that applause coming as we felicitate Ramaswamy Narayanan, former CEO, General Insurance Corporation of India, also known as GIC-RE. Now, who doesn't love profits? In fact, our winner here, with over 35 years at GIC, rose through the ranks after joining as a direct recruit officer in 1988 and set the company on a path with profitable growth. We now bring your focus to the next category. This is mining and metals, large cap category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's keep that applause coming as I invite Mr. Satish Pai, Managing Director, Hindalco Industries. Well, here is a leader who modeled himself on the discipline of arriving in the office at 8 a.m. and leaving by sharp 6:30 p.m., valuing output over optics. And in fact, that results have been seen with Hindalco's financial performance as well. We now move on to the mining and metals mid-cap category, ladies and gentlemen. And let's keep that applause coming as I invite Mr. Arun Mishra, CEO and whole-time director, Hindustan Zinc Limited. Mr. Arun Mishra, in fact, took over as the CEO of the business at the peak of COVID when uncertainties were galore. And he decided to first set an SDG vision for 2025. And 5 years later, about 30% of HZL's power consumption is through renewable energy. Can we have a renewed round of applause one more time? Ladies and gentlemen. Now that brings us to the oil and gas category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's fuel up the applause and let's hear it for Mr. G. Krishnakumar, former Executive Chairman and Managing Director, Bharat Petroleum. Mr. G. Krishnakumar is synonymous with BPCL's digital DNA. And long before digital transformation became a corporate buzzword, he was connecting the company directly with customers. Well, that brings us to the pharma category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a youthful and a dynamic round of applause for Mr. Aman Mehta, Managing Director, Trident Pharmaceuticals. The young and dynamic MD of this company is shaping the growth story of his family business that's completely backed by smart innovations and bold strategies. Mr. Aman Mehta, Managing Director, Trident Pharmaceuticals. And on that energetic note, let's move ahead to the real estate category. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together as I invite on stage Mr. Abhishek Lodha, Managing Director and CEO, Lodha Developers. The real estate baron heads an empire with a market cap of 1.17 lakh crore rupees, and he has successfully cemented Lodha developers at the forefront of the real estate boom. On that incredible note, we now move ahead to the retail and consumer category. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to invite on stage Mr. C.K. Venkataraman, Managing Director, Titan Company. From jewelry to eyewear and Saudis, CKV, as he's fondly called, is an expert in turning commoditized categories into aspirational fashion brands. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on to the next set of awards that's based on income categories and scale. Well, these are the big awards here, so let's move ahead and let's announce for the best CEO for the company under emerging income category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. P. Venkatesulu, Managing Director, Trident Limited. Now here's a leader who has given Indian consumers access to delightful fashion brands such as Westside and Zudio. Go to Patna, Jalandhar or Trichy, you will invariably find a Zudio store that has played a huge role in democratizing fashion in India. Can we have a fashionable round of applause, everyone? And now we announce for the best CEO for the company under medium income category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for Mr. Sunil Vachani, Executive Chairman, Dixon Technologies. Mr. Vachani is the silent protagonist of India's electronic manufacturing industry, and Dixon makes products for nearly every major electronics brand in India. That now brings us to the best CEO for the company under large income category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Mr. Dilip Sangvi, founder and executive chairman, Sun Pharmaceuticals. Visionary with a razor-sharp mind, he's been quietly transforming India's pharmaceutical industry. Can we have a radiant round of applause, everyone? Let's hear it one more time for Shri Dilip Sangvi. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to announce for the best CEO for the company under super large income category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a super large round of applause for Shri S.N. Subramanian, Chairman and Managing Director, Larsen & Toubro. I think it's time for us to clone the applause. And let's make it louder and louder for the Captain Cool. SNS, as he's fondly referred, is someone who's a firm believer in empowering his team. And his single-minded focus is to reshape L&T for the next frontier. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we now move to a very special award for the evening. This is the Lifetime Achievement Award. Well, before we get to announce, I'd like to request our dignitaries to please step to the side so that we can take a look and we get to announce the Lifetime Achievement Award. Let's have the AV on the screen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a standing ovation for Shri K.V. Kamath? There are leaders, and then there are institutions, and there are those that are examples who are institutions of their own. And one such institution is Shri K.V. Kamath, the man who transformed Indian banking.
Thank you, Mr. Goyal. Thank you, Fortune India. I think it's been a long journey. I think sometimes I have to pinch myself to, be sure that I'm here and now, because this is my 55th year in banking. So, so I think I'm still here, and I would love to see India become Viksit. That's a long call, which I won't make. So all good wishes to the entrepreneurs here. I think you have an India which I think is beckoning, an India like never before. And your time is here and now. There was never a better time to have been born an Indian, and I'm sure you will max it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, on that inspiring note, can we have a huge round of applause for our incredible leaders of the India Inc. While we are honored to have the presence of such incredible leaders here. That being said, we'd like to also invite all the leaders to please come on stage with your shining trophies. As we request you to come together, we'll have a beautiful group photograph as well. Let's have all the leaders back here on stage. Well, this is the evening that we honored the visionaries, the disruptors, the leaders shaping India's tomorrow. And as we end this incredible evening, we'll take that inspiration forward to dream bigger, to be bolder, and to create legacy that truly lasts. As I invite our award winners, our leaders to come on stage, I'd also like to thank our presenting partner, Federal Bank, state partner, Invest UP, celebration partner, Diageo, as well as knowledge partner, EY India. Thank you for celebrating India's finest leaders with us. I request all the leaders to please come on stage. We just have a quick request. After that, can we make 2 lines as well, if that's possible? I can see all our tall leaders as well join in, but if we can make 2 lines just for the next group photograph, we'll just narrow it down. Or we'll have our photographers take their place a little behind. Our photographers want to ensure that they get the aesthetics right. So we're just going to lean into that. And let's see how we can do that. But with that, over to our photographers. And on that note, once again, We thank Shri Piyush Goyal ji for joining us this evening and for felicitating our India Inc. We congratulate all the leaders and thank you for inspiring us. Thank you for your continued commitment towards growth. And we thank all our members of the audience for joining us. We now cordially invite you to take the celebrations forward over networking cocktails and dinner. This is Kavya signing off for the evening. Thank you so much.